Hey everybody, we're back to go ahead and finish off the battery replacement in this iPad 4. We've removed the screen and the just glass as well. So we're going to go ahead and peel up a little tiny piece of adhesive down here that's covering up a couple of cables. It's got a cable to one of the front back facing speakers, as well as this home button ribbon cable with a pop-up connector. So we're went ahead and popped that up. I'm just going to go ahead and peel the ribbon cable out. It's got a little bit of adhesive. You just pull straight back. That'll pull the whole assembly right out for you. We also need to take off the connection here for the speaker. You can see it. Actually, let's pop out this portion of the home button housing here. I want to try to get this out here real quick. There's two cables here. We're going to pop out this antenna cable and then this speaker cable connection here as well, which will pop right up. We may not actually have to remove that housing piece. Let's actually leave it in and see if we can get the battery out without it. We are going to remove this little piece of tape here that's covering up the connection point for the charge port. Now my goal is to remove as little as possible out of this to get to the battery. So we're going to try to just remove all the screws out of the logic board here and then pull that right up. Just being careful not to rip the adhesive as we pull it up. Alright, got enough of it removed. Go ahead and pop up the charge port connection point on the logic board. So go ahead and peel that back. The next step is this ribbon cable here. We're going to go ahead and pop up the two flip-up connectors. Then we're going to remove the tape off the back of it. Let's go ahead and set that aside. That will then allow us access into the ribbon cable here. Just going to try to pull it up a little bit away from the back housing here. That way we can get some ability to kind of pull it out of its slot. Now this is actually a network version. You can see in the upper left hand corner here, right just above where I pulled that cable out. If your iPad is a Wi-Fi only, it won't have this secondary portion of the logic board. Basically where the ribbon cable runs over my spudgers at right now, that portion will not be there. So if it looks a little bit different, that's fine. I'm trying to determine whether or not I need to remove this cable to get the whole entire logic board out. So I'm looking at this piece here to see if there's any hidden screws underneath it, or how this really attaches in here. And the cable has a connection point underneath this that's screwed in by a couple of screws. We're going to go ahead and remove one and see if that gives us any leeway or play within the cable to pull up and look underneath it. Now it turns out that you do not need to do this portion of the disassembly, so don't stress that I found a better way to kind of get around it without having to remove these two screws. So again, you don't need to remove those. And there's the second screw. Housing does not want to move at all. It's pretty solid in there. We're going to leave it be for a little bit and see if we can work around it. We're going to take out all of the screws out of the logic board here. The first one being the one for the battery, which is right here. The battery connection is actually underneath this logic board. So that means we'll have to pull the logic board up and out to get to the actual connection for the battery. Just going to remove all the screws out of this logic board. One more hiding underneath this piece of adhesive here. Should allow us to go ahead and pull the board up. Now it does have a flex cable that attaches to the portion of the Wi-Fi up here at the top. So we can pull it up enough. We can get clear access to the battery connection, which is right here. I don't want to pull this more than about a 90-degree angle. But it looks like we can actually get the battery out with actually having to remove the entire thing. Just checking with my spudger here real fast, see if we can get some access to the battery. And it looks like we can. Just going to find something to pry the logic board up with. Kind of hold it in place while I pry the battery out. That'll save you a lot of time of having to try to remove everything out of here as well. It's a little bit of a hassle to keep it upright. But basically for each piece of the battery that I'm prying out with this metal spudger, there's two pieces of adhesive that run down the sides of the battery. What you'll need to do is run your spudger all the way down each side. You can go ahead and heat it up if you need to. Which we'll end up doing here in just a few seconds. The battery can be stuck in pretty good. Some of them are easier than others. This battery's really stuck in there good. So it'll take me a few seconds to go ahead and pry it out. Now being very careful not to extremely deform the battery. I don't want to pierce the battery is the main goal. Going to put some heat on it to see if that'll help loosen the adhesive. We're just going to go ahead and get it nice and warm. See if we can get the adhesive to loosen up a bit underneath this battery. You can see that it's chunked out into 3 sections, so we're just going to work on the first section here. See if we can get that to work a little bit better for us. Now this battery is completely dead, so I'm not really concerned about damaging it on the removal. If you plan on reusing the battery, you'll want to be a lot more careful than I will be when removing it. Just going to slide our metal spudger in here, being very careful not to damage the plastic ring around the tablet. I'm holding my pry tool off of the bezel. I'm just going to use this to stand this up so I don't have to remove the full logic board here. We're going to use a curved spudger. See if this will help us pull this out. Being very careful not to pry very hard against any of these options here. You can see what's right next to my spudger to the right is actually the Wi-Fi antenna. This thing is stuck in here really good. Needs to use some pretty strong adhesive here. The heat didn't really help us as much as I thought that it would. Just going to keep trying to get this thing to pry out. Switch back and forth between my two spudgers since I'm making progress. We're going to try to heat up the backs of the tablet and see if that helps out a little bit more than the front side. Being careful not to damage the Apple logo here. So we're going to keep moving it around to get the whole entire back warm. It does take a little bit of time to get this warmed up. Now we're not looking to get it to scalding hot, we just want it to get nice and warm. Alright, let's go ahead and give this a little bit more heat on this side as well. Alright, let's go ahead and prop our board back up here. See, we're making a little bit more progress than nice and warm. Still not extremely easy. So you're making pretty good leverage on one side of it. Perfect. Now we got that one side broken free, we can go ahead and bend it a little bit. Like I was saying, I'm not worried about damaging this battery. If you are, then I would not bend it to the degree that I'm bending it. I'd take all pieces out, one by one. So since I'm not worried about it, I'm just going to go ahead and start and work my way down on the second battery here. We'll fold it over as well. Use this as a pry tool to pry underneath the battery and get it to pull up. Be careful not to damage the Apple logo behind. We can go ahead and pull up the connector off of the bottom of the case here. That'll give us access to the next portion of the battery. We're just going to go ahead and see if we can't just rip this thing apart a little bit. So a piece or a section of the battery did pop off. Now normally if you're watching this video to see how to replace a battery, you shouldn't be needing to keep your old one. So not a big concern for us. We're getting very close. We're just going to pry up the opposite direction of the battery here. Now the board does have a flex cable on it, so it's not too concerning that it's 90 degrees. It's pulling straight up. It's going to get the connector on the opposite side of the board here, like so. We can just peel this back. Perfect, and our battery has been removed. The next step is to go ahead and put in our new battery. See, it's right here. It's got a thin film on the back that holds the adhesive. We're just going to peel this back. You want to be very gentle with this battery. You don't want to bend or flex it very much. You saw how we can break them fairly easy. Alright, so you can't really mess this one up too hard. It's got a connection slot for where the battery's supposed to go, a little round pillar. So you want to make sure you connect that in. Try to get the battery as straight as possible in the mid-frame. Make sure the connectors on the bottom of the logic board will hit the connectors on the battery connection here. We're just going to take a spudger here and just kind of press down on the adhesive underneath the logic board. Make sure that it's stuck down a little bit. Go ahead and lay our logic board back down into the device. Press down on the battery a little bit. Make sure the adhesive sticks. We're going to go ahead and put a screw in for the battery connector here to make sure the logic board stays in place. We're going to go ahead and reconnect and rescrew our screws back into the logic board here. If I can get the screw to go in straight. Put our additional screw in here. One right below the battery area. We have one underneath the adhesive tape here. Go ahead and put our connector down for the charge port. We can go ahead and lay our adhesive back down. Put in our ribbon cable for the top cable here. Make sure we slide them all the way into the white lines that are located on the cable. Make sure we put our two screws in that we took out here at the top. that didn't actually need to come out. Should be our last one. Go ahead and put our little speaker connection back on here. Our wire antenna connection. These can be a little bit tricky, so be careful as you're putting them on. You don't want to be forceful, you just want to be firm. With the angle that the cable's at, it can be a little bit tricky to get back on correctly. So just take your time. Can be helpful to use a nylon spudger to line it up correctly over the place you want to put it. Then use your thumb to press it down. Go ahead and flip our connectors down here for our cable. Put our black adhesive back over it. Everything's starting to come together. We're going to go ahead and re-put our home button back into the device. So it does have that little flip-up connector. This is probably the most difficult thing to do of the entire rebuild of the battery, is to get this connector back in. It's such a pain to fit back into its slot, so be patient as you're doing this. It's just at a funky angle to get in. And it's a curved cable, so it doesn't give you a lot of leverage to push it into the slot. It always wants to bend and turn away. We're just going to wiggle it back and forth until we can get it to go into the correct spot for us. You don't want to damage the cable, so you want to be pretty careful with it as you do this. We'll get it in here eventually. So using my spudger to push on the back of the cable to get it in place. There we go. Excellent. It's going to go ahead and put it back into the connection slot here and press down on it. Now I will link another video in down at the bottom for the screen replacement if you want to watch that, or if you go out on your own, go ahead and put that thing back together. I want to make sure it'll charge first and that the screen's working for you. If you found the video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them down in the comments down below. And if you want to see any new videos, go ahead and subscribe to me. I'll try to post a couple a week on a new device of what you can do. The next video will just show you how to tape down everything and get yourself started. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.